increasing influence. Hello and welcome to Asia Business Report. I'm Karishma Vaswani. U.S. President Donald Trump is back at the White House, where he continues to be treated for the coronavirus. But in the last few hours, he's cast doubt on the U.S. economic recovery by pulling out of crucial talks for another stimulus package. This means that Americans may not get the trillions of dollars in relief they need until after the election in November. The announcement triggered a sell-off on Wall Street. Michelle Fleury told me more from New York.
Unsurprisingly, we saw a sharp sell-off on Wall Street in the final couple of hours of the trading day. You've got the three major indexes down, all roughly around 1.5%. And this was after Donald Trump tweeted that he wanted negotiations to end and talks to cease on another round of stimulus before the election day. Now, you may recall over the last few days, Nancy Pelosi and Stephen Mnuchin, that is the House Democratic leader and also the U.S. Treasury Secretary, have been trying to see if a deal could be done. There was a renewed sense of urgency in the wake of the president's diagnosis with the coronavirus. But now all of that has been pushed aside. And so that kind of benefit to the markets in recent days has evaporated, and that's really where we're at. And that leaves many Americans also without any hope of help as they're struggling with evictions, putting food on the table, and longer-term unemployment.
Michelle Fleury there. Well, the Trump administration has changed the rules around the H-1B visas, making it harder for foreigners to work in the United States. Authorities say they expect about a third of new applicants would be rejected under the new set of rules, but that it's necessary to protect Americans. A high number of applicants of these visas are highly skilled Indians working in the technology sector. Australia has promised billions of dollars in tax cuts and measures to boost jobs in a budget that hopes to pull the economy out of its historic COVID-19 slump. Those tax cuts were already planned, but the government brought them forward by 2 years, costing Canberra $36 billion over 4 years. It's also promised to pay businesses $3 billion in incentives to hire those under the age of 35. Unemployment is already at a 22-year high, above 7%. And all of this spending comes at a price, with the government's debt increasing to $700 billion by 2024. Chief Investment Officer at Berman Invest, Julia Lee, told me what the budget means for Australian workers.
There is a huge effort to get the youth unemployment down. In fact, there will be a wage subsidy of up to $200 a week to hire young workers between the ages of 16 to 35. So it's great news for young workers and great news for companies that hire young workers like McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken or even some of the department stores. However, it may be at the detriment of older workers who become more expensive, relatively more expensive to hire in the workplace.
Public listings from Chinese companies on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange are on the rise. They've already hit $18 billion this year, and Ant Group's upcoming share sale could add another $17.5 billion. The Hong Kong dollar, which is pegged to the US dollar, has been strengthening as a result, leading some to ask whether it's time to relook at that model. As part of our special coverage on Hong Kong this week, Saranjana Tiwari sent this report.
Money makes the world go round, and for almost 40 years, people in Hong Kong have relied on the one currency that is universally accepted for trade. $1 US corresponds to 7.8 Hong Kong dollars, and that never changes.
For all the large banks and including a lot of Chinese companies that try to go listed overseas or they try to borrow overseas through the financial services in Hong Kong, it still will go through this US dollar system.
Fast forward to 2020, and the US and China are locked in a bitter trade war. It started off as a standoff over trade, but now it involves technology, intellectual property, and increasingly the politics of money, with Hong Kong caught in the middle.
the most powerful organization or entity can really, damage this U.S. dollar's dominance is nobody else other than the U.S. government themselves. Continue weaponizing sanction. I do think that's a very big risk factor.
But China has a plan B. It wants to launch a digital currency in some Chinese cities and Hong Kong. Now, the timelines aren't clear, but it is a monumental step, making China the first central bank in the world to issue a digital currency. So, can it ever displace the US dollar?
When started to have countries using digital yuan for bilateral trade, and inevitably Hong Kong as a financial hub, I think some of the currently under US dollar system will be replaced by digital yuan as a trading currency. 1,000 years ago, the first paper money was actually issued by a bank in Sichuan in China, and we probably will about to see the next revolution in terms of what kind of money we're going to use will also come from China.
But investors look for stability in a reserve currency, backed by a strong economy rather than technology. And, well, Hong Kong's not been the most stable of places or economies lately. But a potential battle over currency could well play out there.
Suranjana Tiwari there. Well, some say China's increasing influence in Hong Kong signals the end of the city as Asia's financial capital. Hedge fund manager Kyle Bass is one of them. He's been betting against the Hong Kong dollar, which means he stands to benefit if the currency weakens. That said, he says capital will continue to flee Hong Kong unless China is more honest about its currency accounts.
My initial thought was they have a closed capital account and they've got essentially toilet paper as a currency, i.e. no one would accept their currency, no one trusts them, no one trusts their government globally. And so why would a digital currency or what I call digital toilet paper work? And the difference is now that they're forcing the payments onto a Chinese rail system like a WePay or Alipay, it subverts, it basically avoids the central banking system. It also avoids the global sanctions system from a currency perspective. And it gives China a lot of control, because you think about how WePay and Alipay work. When you log on and join these systems, you have to give them your bank account data, you give them your date of birth, your social security number, and they immediately start geolocating you. China will have an Orwellian payment system if the world moves towards more of a ubiquitous manner of dealing, or let's say of paying over China's payment rails.
Yeah, but Kyle, China is the world's
It's a
second
clear and
largest
present danger to
economy. It is one of the biggest parts of how global trade works. The US has had control of the global system for so long. Why shouldn't China have it?
It's an ideological difference. They literally don't believe in human rights. They don't believe that humans have any rights. They believe that the humans all work for the betterment of the party. And that's not the way the world works. And the world works by rule of law, not by rule by law. And so I think these ideological differences are really important. Now, mind you, the US doesn't control global trade. Global trade just happens to all settle in US dollars.
We have statistics. We've been told by people since April, $18 billion worth of foreign investment has come into Hong Kong, despite the national security law. 9,000 international firms have chosen it as their regional headquarters. Why are you so convinced that it's game over for Hong Kong?
I think it's important to note that many of the Western institutions, whether you're a large endowment or you're a large asset management firm in the US, the manner in which you used to invest in China was via Hong Kong, because there was a semblance of rule of law and any disputes would be adjudicated in an English court. Now that that is completely up in the air, what you're seeing with foreign portfolio flows is, as you probably heard Jack Ma told entrepreneurs in Hong Kong, now's the time to take your companies public in Hong Kong. You're seeing IPO activity and you're seeing capital that's going into China via Hong Kong really speed up. And I think the things that you're going to see next, I think you're going to see some things from the US government that make things a lot more difficult for Western investors to invest in Hong Kong.
Quickly, before we go, U.S. lawmakers say Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Google have abused their monopoly power. They accuse the companies of using their dominant positions to dictate rules for commerce, forcing out competitors. The lawmakers are calling for changes to antitrust laws, including putting up hurdles for these tech giants. That's it for this edition. Thanks for watching.